All right, so this one I'm going to work on today is making these stringers, and I'm going to do it for both the left and right side right now because I'm all set up to do this. I've got the tools out, and I'm just going to crank all these out. And once I get these parts fabricated, I should be in pretty good shape to start, you know, really drilling and putting the tail feathers together here. There's not a lot of parts to fabricate for the elevator. And like I said, I'm going to start on the right-hand side one because the left side has a bunch more parts to it. All right, so I'm going to cut these apart here. And what I'm going to do is, you notice that if you look on the plans, you'll see that basically you've got a long taper here that goes from this hole to this notch. And then over here, you've got kind of just a 45-degree angle cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this with the tin snips here and cut it across. And basically I'm just going to rough cut all these. And then we're going to go take them next onto the bandsaw, get them a little bit closer, and then we'll finish them out on the polish wheel. Okay, if you look on the plans, you'll notice that there are two different, you know, bundles of these stringers. So you have the DEF-G bundle, and then you have the bundle that is the A, B, C, and H. And if you look on the plans, then you'll see that the A, B, C are pretty much the longer ones, and then these over here are all the shorter ones. Pretty much the stringers will only fit in one place, right? So you're going to have essentially one top and one bottom for each side. And you know, so if you get them mixed up, you can sort them out. It's not that big of a deal. But that's one of the reasons that these notches are here, because that keeps you from having to measure each one of these, and it helps you make a more precise part. So even though when you start looking at this thing, you're like, man, these notches are weird. Why did they do it this way? It really is a pretty smart way to do it because it makes fabricating this pretty easy. You'll notice on the van stuff that there's a lot of parts that come pre-made, and then some of these parts just require a little bit of extra fabrication time, and those are the parts that they're going to make you cut apart and fabricate yourselves. All right, so this is the detail on the plan. You can see these little notches here, and it tells you basically to cut out the shaded areas. So you see they have that long taper there. And then you're going to cut out those notches are actually going to get kind of removed. So pretty simple fabrication, but that's what it looks like if you were confused on what I was talking about. Okay, so now I've got everything cut apart here. I've got them in the two separate piles, and I'm going to start marking these so that I can cut them on the bandsaw. So I'm not going to mark some of this stuff because on this edge and this edge, I know I've got to get rid of where these notches are. So they're approximately right there and right there. I need to use the bandsaw. I'm just going to use the bandsaw and cut all that off. That'll get rid of all that. But I do need to cut from here to here, so I'm going to mark this one. Now this small of an area you can generally freehand, but the larger area here to go from here to that notch, it's going to be really hard to freehand that. So I'm going to use a block of wood and this ruler to draw a line, and then when I'm cutting, I want to make sure I cut exactly on the middle of the line. All right, so I've got my piece here, and I'm going to basically cut that and that on the one end to make sure that I can get rid of all of those notches. On the other end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut that, and then you'll see the two notches here. I'm just going to use my ruler, and I'm going to draw a line that will get rid of all the notches here. So that line there will get rid of all the notches, and I'm going to cut out that area there. And then I need to make another line from here to here, so this longer line. And it's a little bit tricky because you want to make sure that you get the line underneath the notch on the middle and then right to the edge, because you really don't want a lot of metal sticking up there because otherwise it'll interfere when the elevator is closing. So I'm going to draw a line here, and That looks pretty good. One thing is, when you're putting these, you might notice the line's a little higher, a little low. You can mentally, when you're cutting on the bandsaw, either cut to one side of the line, cut in the middle of the line, or cut on the other end of the line. So here I am, I've got this part all marked up, ready to go. Okay, so now that I've got it cut on the bandsaw, you'll notice that the edges, you know, they just are a little bit rough. Now on my bandsaw, I do have a metal cutting blade, which really helps out quite a bit. But what I'm going to do is use this polishing wheel here, and I'm going to help, you know, make sure that none of these edges are rough, and that everything's nice and smooth, and that there's really no stress risers. So I'm just going to work this kind of nice and easy. And you notice you can flip the part around, put a nice little radius there. And then on the flat edge here, just work it till it's totally straight. That's a lot better. And you can also do it on the front of the wheel. And you'll notice I'm using my finger here to feel for rough edges, and that's how I know it's done, is when I don't feel any more rough edges. Okay, before we go, I want to talk about one thing that I really like in the workshop, and that is to have wheels on just about everything you can. So I want to show you some things that I've got wheels on here, and it makes a huge difference. All right, you'll notice that the buffing wheel that has the aluminum wheel on it doesn't have feet, but that's about the only thing. Everything else has wheels, so the horizontal bandsaw, the vertical bandsaw here, and the belt sander. And then if I come over here, my welding table doesn't have wheels, but that's not too bad to move around. And then the rack that I built to do painting on is actually making a pretty nice parts rack, but it has wheels on it too. And you'll notice that my main workbench here, it's got a full set of wheels on it. And I really like that I've got full castering wheels on all four legs, because that makes it much easier to move around a small space. Oh yeah, and the little cart here has wheels on it too. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. Today I fabricated all these stiffeners here. Next time I'm gonna work on this elevator counterweight. That's one of the last things that needs to be fabricated in the elevator. And then it's getting time to dimple the skins and put everything together. So hope you enjoyed watching this. That's what we're gonna do next time. And a little bit of a shameless plug, if you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit subscribe and go ahead and share the channel with all your friends and tell us about it. And then we also have a calendar over at MyBombshells.com. Check it out. And there's also t-shirts there if you're interested. So help support the channel, and make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.